The MMA Fight Corner. Get back!
Joining us on the MMA Fight Corner tonight is Chris Weidman. Chris, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
First of all, thanks for joining us on MMA Fight Corner. For our fans out there listening, how did you first get started in the world of MMA?
Well, some of the Serra fighters came down to Hofstra, and I was helping them out with their wrestling. And then, they started trying to, teach me a little bit about jiu-jitsu, and I wasn't really interested at first. And then, slowly, I started getting a little interest, and then before you knew it, I was actually doing jiu-jitsu with them, and basically that was the start.
Okay, and then you incorporated the stand-up with Ray Longo?
Yeah, after I tried out for the Olympics in 2008, after I didn't make it, it was either make a decision. I was doing jiu-jitsu a little bit before I tried out, and then after I didn't make it, it was either make a decision, concentrate on wrestling and work on the 2012 Olympics, or try MMA, because I felt like I was doing pretty good with the jiu-jitsu. I had done a Grappler's Quest tournament. I had 15 matches. I did my weight and the absolute, and I ended up submitting everybody. It was like 13 matches where I got all submissions. So I knew the ground game was fun already. I just had to learn the stand-up, and I ended up choosing MMA and got into that.
Wow. Now, Ryan Bader and Phil Davis, two up-and-coming stars in the UFC. You actually, for our fans listening, beat both of those guys when you wrestled them. Now, in comparison, would you say that your fighting style emulates either one of them?
Not. I'd say the ground game. I like the way Phil Davis, he moves pretty well on the ground. I'd say I'm similar with that. Ryan Bader is more of like a strong type of wrestler. Has a couple things he's good at. Just everyone's different at that level. I feel like I'd say more like Phil Davis, but both are just different. Both are good.
If you had to maybe pick a different fighter in the UFC or Strikeforce that you would say most emulates your style, who would that be?
That's tough. I feel like it changes every day.
Okay.
In the beginning, I felt like I was really trying to. I'm always trying to find someone to emulate, and then I end up mixing all the skills together. But in the beginning, I really liked Dan Henderson, and I still do. The big right hand, that's what I was throwing. Mm-hmm. And then my takedowns obviously were always pretty good. So I was trying to emulate that, and then I ended up trying to emulate like Anderson Silva. Just trying to. I'm constantly trying to become one of the best, and you got to watch the best to do that. So I don't know, really. I can't really just pick one person. It's a combination of a lot of different guys.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The unbelievable thing, Billy, about Chris, he not only qualified for the Abu Dhabi, which is the hands down the toughest submission grappling tournament in the world, but actually, Billy, you've seen Andre Galvao fight before.
Sure.
Chris gave Andre Galvao all he can handle, and Chris is not even a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Chris, could you kind of walk us through that whole Abu Dhabi experience? First the qualifier, and then take it from when you actually get down there and you draw Galvao. What's going through your head?
Yeah, all right. I'll start from the beginning. But basically, the way I even got into competing for the Abu Dhabi was I hurt like my knuckle, and I was going to fight. I think a fight in June. And then Ray was like, "Why don't you take one fight off and then fight, a month later, past that?" I'm like, all right. So I started, just kind of, working on different things and get my technique back. And then Ray came up to me and said, these Abu Dhabi. He saw me. I was doing really well with the jiu-jitsu with all, tough guys. So he was like, they have this Abu Dhabi trials thing going on, and I think it was in June. And he was like, you should train for that. So I'm like, all right. And I started training for that, and actually I was a blue belt at the time, and I was like 8 months jiu-jitsu at that point. Really 3 months full time, but 8 months. I did 3 months full jiu-jitsu, and then I did 5 months of MMA. So if you put them together, you get 8 months, but really 3 months. And then I went into the trials, and I did pretty good. I ended up being the guy who was a former world champion at brown belt in the finals. I ended up submitting him. And then from there, that was exciting to do that. And then I ended up going to Abu Dhabi. And, there was, all these huge names in my weight class that everybody's telling me about I should be worried about. But in my mind, I was just pretty confident. I knew that I was training with some really good guys in the area, including Henzo's and Matt Serras. And so I didn't really want to look into like Andre Galvez being an 8-time world champion or whatever he is, because I didn't want any room for intimidation. So I didn't really focus on that. But and when I got to the Abu Dhabis, it was pretty cool. It was in Spain, and the first guy I went against was like the Spain hometown hero. He was the only guy from Spain in the whole tournament, and he's an MMA fighter too, Daniel Tabera, and that I ended up beating him like 17-0, I think, was the first round match. And it was I was constantly looking for submissions. And then my second match was against Andre Galvez, who, before the match everyone's telling me about him, this and that. But again, I'm trying to just keep my confidence, not really worry, not really get too nervous about it. And right away, I realized this guy really was on a different level, because he ended up omoplating me and almost putting me in a triangle, then switching it to an arm bar within like the first 5 seconds of the match. And I was just like, holy crap, this guy's good. And then I had to make the decision, it's either be scared and like eventually get submitted, or just go after this guy like I would anybody else. And I ended up turning up the pace on him and really, going for submission to submission. A week before the Abu Dhabis, I broke my hand, so I went to the tournament anyway. There was no way I was going to miss the experience. But one of my things I'm real good at is the chokes, and so my chokes, I latched on I think 3 chokes in the match. I almost had it, but my hand was broken. I'm not saying I would have got it, anyway, but I'm just saying that, I had to deal with it, an injured hand. And it was an awesome match. It was a good experience, and I'm glad it happened.
That's phenomenal. Now, I know you can't go into any type of detail with the results of the tough tryout, The Ultimate Fighter. Talk about that experience a little bit. Like, have you stopped and kind of pinched yourself yet and said, holy cow, what do you even realize, like, what a phenomenal just overall competitor you are, and the things that you've accomplished in such a short amount of time?
Well, as far as the Ultimate Fighter trials, it was an awesome experience, and it went real well. Got through everything, but can't really go into too much detail.
No, I understand, absolutely.
Sued for it, but that was awesome. As far as like staying grounded and stuff like that, first of all, I don't feel like I really did anything yet. I'm waiting. I'm trying to get to the UFC, get to a big organization, and really prove myself. My goal is to be a UFC champion. So all this other stuff that I'm doing right now, if I really stopped and thought about it, then I'd start getting into what I already did, and maybe I'll start being satisfied. But I'm far from that, and I don't want to ever be satisfied.
No, absolutely. Now, as far as your training, you do the ground game at Sarah's place, and then you do the stand-up with Longo. Is there anywhere else that you go?
Well, originally I was doing I was doing my jiu-jitsu at Sarah's and my stand-up at Ray's, but as of lately, I've been doing pretty much everything at Ray's. Like, I have Sarah guys who come down and do jiu-jitsu with me over there. Excuse me. I have a couple Henzo guys that come down to Ray's. I go to Henzo's every once in a while. Dave Branch, who's already in the UFC, I work with him. I got Jamal Patterson coming down on Thursday. So I'm definitely, right now is a good time where I'm really trying to get some new blood in there and, mix it up with some, good competition.
Right. Now, as far as, obviously, your personal time, there must be very little amount of it. I know you have a baby girl who's absolutely beautiful, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate that.
How do you juggle everything between being a dad and a husband and, what's time with your friends, the fighting? What's the hardest part about that?
It's tough, man. I don't really know how I do it, but I'll just tell you this job is not easy. For me, it would be a lot easier just to do a 9 to 5 right now, come home and spend the nights with my family. But right now, I don't really have nights. Some days I'm still working out. Nights I'm teaching and working out. There's really no time where I could just kick my feet up and relax and just really really enjoy my family as much as I like. So it's definitely not easy. But I don't know how I juggle it. To tell you the truth, it's tough. I don't want to go on into a rant about it. I can't really explain it.
Now, if fans want to learn more about you, is there anything that they can go read up about you, website, anything you'd like to talk about?
I guess you can go on chrisweidman.com. It's my website. I'm trying to update as much as I can. Yeah.
Now, Chris, I got to ask you a question. No matter how successful you become or how big you become, will you always come on the MMA Fight Corner and give us an interview?
Of course.
All right, because we want to be known eventually for the world champion Chris Weidman, and they could always find him on the MMA Fight Corner, and we always want to be known as the official show of Chris Weidman.
All right. Well, only you guys got to get me into the UFC or something first. I gotta get somewhere.
We're never gonna listen. You're a New York.
I love the ring of combat and everything, but I don't want to be the guy who's been in the most ring of combat fights in the history of ring of combat.
No, listen. You're a good Long Island boy, and hey, we got to support you over here. So
I appreciate that.
All right, you got to make us proud. So not putting any pressure on you or anything.
That's all right. I have enough pressure. I got a wife and a baby who.
I know that.
Reminded me.
Chris, I know that very, very well.
Chris, we appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Chris, all the best. All the best.
Take care.
Thank you.